The Dallas Cowboys lost two key starters to high ankle sprains this week. What does that mean for their future this year? We'll get to that next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool, and on today's show, we're going to look for any reasons of optimism for the Cowboys moving forward. We're going to talk about why their defense has gotten to be so bad outside of just trading Micah Parsons, obviously. But let's start with some big injury news. We were already bummed out, Landon, because the Cowboys lost to the Bears in week 3. And then we get the news that CeeDee Lamb is going to miss at least 2 games. It sounds like it's more of 2 to 4 games with a high ankle injury. He was seen in a walking boot and on a scooter during Monday's open session with the media. Not great news.
No, I mean, there's even been talk, like, I guess maybe he stayed off the injured reserve at this point, but I mean, I don't think that they've completely ruled that out. And, look, I mean, it was apparent how much of an effect he had on the Cowboys offense immediately. I pulled the numbers from the weeks 1 through 3 on their average attempts of air yards, and it plummeted after CeeDee Lamb left the game. The first few weeks they were attempting the ball down the field at a higher than 15 yards down the field at a higher than 32% rate, and now it went down to 7.5%. They basically went back to what we saw in the 2024 offense, where they were operating in a box, and it was tough, even with Pickens, who was, I think, able to pull out together some things that you didn't have last season with the ability to kind of score in the red zone and produce a little bit. He also had the key drop that turned into an interception, and the offense kind of puttered in the second half, specifically when they had to throw the ball, and Chicago knew they had to throw the ball. So it was a tough loss.
Yeah, and I know CeeDee Lamb said after the game on Sunday that he was going to try to play against the Packers. Players are notorious for overestimating their ability to get back on the field. And I think the Cowboys have got to protect CeeDee from himself a little bit. And that's why I won't be surprised if they put him on the injured reserve list, because high ankle injuries, even mild ones, can really linger. And for the most part, players aren't the same all season long. So you're better off just to give him the 4 weeks to get ready and then kind of evaluate. Unfortunately, I hate that we're already in this part of the season, but evaluate where the team is a month from now and then go from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for us to sit here and say this, but the smart thing to do is probably to, err on the side of caution and be careful with him and give him more time than he really needs. They are, going to have the warrior mentality that these guys usually have, and they're going to be rushing back to kind of get back in. The good news is that the Cowboys training staff will at least get him to a point where he won't hurt himself, hopefully. I mean, he already went out there and tried it on immediately and just was clear that he wasn't able to even do the motion across the formation without, wincing in pain. So hopefully they take the time that they need to make sure that he gets healthy again, because you can't lose CeeDee Lamb long term. You can't have negative effects that linger with him beyond just these few weeks.
Well, and I will say, one of the things that we're going to know kind of coming out of this next month is whether or not the Cowboys should pay George Pickens this offseason. This is a huge opportunity for him to show not only that he can be a valuable point in this person in this offense, but he's somebody that can carry the offense, right? We know he's incredibly talented. We know the big plays he can make, but now it's time for him to become the focal point of the offense and be the guy that can handle 8, 9, 10 targets a game. It's a really big opportunity for Pickens, and I'm curious to see how he handles it.
Yeah, Pickens has got the whole world in front of him right now, and he had the opportunity of the lifetime. Obviously, it was kind of an up and down showing in this game, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think initially, as things kind of play out in the course of the game. And I think this is similar to what we saw when CeeDee went against the Dennis Allen defense, and facing the kind of brackets of being the focal point. It's a tough life. We'll see if life gets any easier this week against the Packers. I can't imagine that it will. But the other thing that you would hope that they would be able to lean on is a run game that had a lot of success. And I think that's a huge part of what was positive about the game early on. Unfortunately for the Cowboys, they got a double dose of bad news today. Give them the other shot.
Well, and that's the other one. And this is the one that really bums me out. I mean, CeeDee is so much fun, but Tyler Booker is going to miss, for the reports, 4 to 6 weeks. So this is a much more severe injury for a high ankle sprain. And usually with offensive linemen, they can get back onto the field quicker than other positions. And I think that the fact that we're already hearing 4 to 6 weeks means this is probably a pretty severe high ankle injury for Tyler Booker. Such a bummer, because you're already without Cooper Beebe for the next 6 to 8 weeks with a lower leg injury. And now you're losing Tyler Booker. We thought the Cowboys offensive line could be the strength of their team and really their interior three, right? Tyler Smith.
Specifically.
Tyler Booker. Now you're already without 2 of those 3 guys going into week 4.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate. I mean, Tyler Brooke was able to finish the game with that injury that's going to give about 4 to 6 weeks just to show the kind of level of toughness that we're talking about. But you're right. Like with CeeDee Lamb, it's like this feels sort of like, we're drifting closer and closer to a lost season sort of situation. And if CeeDee Lamb misses a few weeks here and there in this situation, it's not the worst case scenario of everything that could happen. But Tyler Booker, a rookie, you want to be out there with his teammates getting these snaps. He needs these snaps to get better and to improve and just to kind of grow over the next few weeks. The fact that he's going to be on the sideline obviously is upsetting. And I guess even more especially because I think in the run game, especially, you saw a lot of really positive things about from the Cowboys offensive line. And I think, in a situation, like we said, where it doesn't feel like it's going the Cowboys' way this season with the injuries piling up and everything, looking for some positives on film. I think that the run game is one area where you felt like you were getting a lot of positives from a young part of your team, and you were hopeful about the future there.
And one of the things that we talked about this offseason is that the Cowboys have a lot of depth on their interior offensive line. So you do feel good about TJ Bass being your right guard. You've got Brock Hoffman at center. You do have some options, but it's not just Beebe and Booker that they've lost. It's someone like Rob Jones, who the Cowboys signed this offseason to kind of be that swing guard. He's out for the season with a neck injury. They've just had all of these injuries concentrated, it seems like, at the cornerback spot and now at the center, the interior offensive line spot. It's just really unfortunate for a team that really didn't have much of a margin of error to already have this many devastating injuries coming out of the 3rd game of the year.
It feels a lot like last year with the defensive end position, right? Where you just lost a whole bunch of concentration of players in one spot. And then cornerback, honestly, too, last year as well. And it really sunk your chances pretty early on. I'm hopeful it's not going to be like that this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really tough. And this is why we need to see the coaching staff really elevate the players, help with the scheme, put them in good positions, because if they just go out and try to win based on talent, probably not going to happen. I know. Let's talk about some reasons, though, to be optimistic, because we've been nothing but negative for the last couple of days, and rightfully so. Are there any reasons to be hopeful about this team long term? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love the most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot that you can put anywhere that you need it when you need a boost. Like for me, I throw it in my truck or in my golf bag, and I'm ready to go. It's absolutely fantastic. You don't get that crash at the end of the day. It gives you the energy to power through your day. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love, or be bold and try something new. in store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Landon, let's be optimistic because, it's been a little bit rough. Are there some long-term things here that you've seen from the Cowboys through the first 3 games that do give you a little bit of hope that they're heading in the right direction?
I think that obviously it would be the offensive side of the ball, right? And I think when you look specifically at this young offensive line, like we talked about a little bit in the last segment, the ability to be able to run the football and the schemes that's been installed, the Cowboys have something there. And I think the real travesty of the Chicago game to me is that the defense was so poor that it threw the Cowboys game script out of balance and forced them to throw the football to try to catch up with the Bears, because in the first half the Cowboys were absolutely pummeling the Bears defensive front in the run game. I mean, I think the first 2 carries, despite the fumble, I mean, they tell you the tail, like they basically carried, I think it was like a 15 or a 7-yard carry and then a 15-yard carry. And it's just, they were able to like mix it up with the power and outside toss schemes and zone stuff. Like it's just the combination of things that they are able to accomplish. And it was multiple guys too. Guyton was able to clear people out. You saw obviously Booker with some success even after he was injured. Apparently, I'm still not even sure where I think he got injured, because I rewatched the tape on the film and you don't necessarily see it in the film, and I think maybe we saw it in the game and I missed it. But
it was one of the last plays. I think Miles Sanders rolled up on him a little bit and his leg got caught. Like I think it might have been like the second to last play on offense.
But I think even Hoffman, looked good and didn't look like they lost a step. They looked like people were ready to fight a lot more. But I think that Hoffman did his job for sure. Tyler Smith was moving folks off the ball. So I do think that the good, if you're looking for something positive to build on, is that I do think the Cowboys offensive line and Clayton Adams, what he's installed so far, they do have something moving forward in the run game, and I think that that's long term. Like let's look past the season and maybe even past a couple seasons. Like while the Cowboys are going to have to rebuild their defense, that much is clear. Like they're going to need to rebuild the talent there. They're going to have lots of opportunity to with the extra first round picks. Micah Parsons may be available. So I think as they rebuild the defense, even if like Dak's prime does, which I feel like you're in right now, even if Dak's prime starts to fade a little bit and he's getting older, that certainly could happen. You will have like a run game, and then as you build the defense, a run game and a defense combo, which can support an older quarterback, which can support potentially a rookie quarterback if it becomes that point down the road. And now suddenly, at least you're on a timeline where your team makes sense, right? Because it feels like that's always been out of kilter as the Cowboys try to chase efficiency in the run game and just have inability to do it. And it just feels like they're pass heavy, they're offense heavy. They can't seem to get their defense together to finally rebuild like the right way, even if it's with your quarterback that's making $60 million while you're doing it. I think that they're at least taking the first few steps towards long-term building towards having a solid team where it's not just the hot players on the edges that are making the most money and just kind of a hollow team in the middle.
I agree with you. I mean, I'm really having a hard time not trying to crack some dumb jokes here, but like real quick, just do you see this? What do you see as like the kind of overall outcome for the Cowboys this year? Like I'm being serious right now. Like, if I had to ask you how many games you think they win, what would you say right now going into week 4?
I mean, honestly, it's hard to like project anything less than a couple games under 500 at this point, like based on what we saw from
So you're
Chicago,
thinking like 6 wins, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair, right?
So I'm with you, by the way. I think it's in that range, give or take a game, either direction, right? Like that's kind of where I think they're at. I wonder if they have another season like they had last year, where it's 6-7 wins. then you can really start to tear down and rebuild and kind of just move on from guys and on both sides of the ball. And this is where my long-term hope comes, where I think if they were to go 8-9, 9-8 and sneak into the playoffs or be one game out, maybe that wouldn't be enough for Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones to feel like, hey, we're just one guy away from getting into that tournament. But if they have another really bad season where they're drafting inside the top 12, I honestly think that's better for the long-term health of this team than scraping by and getting to 9-8. Honestly, I do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. I mean, because you're at a point where assets are more important to you, right? Like,
Yes.
those draft picks
Yes.
are more important to you than they ever were,
But
right?
but I also think it's going to be a lot easier to move on from players that you need to move on from if you're a 6-11 team. And I know that sounds
Yeah,
crazy, but like I'll give you an example. I actually thought Dante Fowler played pretty well on Sunday. I mean, relatively well.
yeah.
But there's no sense in bringing back someone like Dante Fowler next year, right? Like he's kind of a blockage, with some of the other defensive ends you have. We'll get to that in a little bit. I think they're going to lean into playing a lot of young players, and I like what they're doing on offense. I like the coaching staff. I think Clayton Adams is really good. I actually think for the long-term future of this team, going 6-11 is what you want to see.
Yeah, we're not trying to look. We talked about this before. You don't tank in the NFL. No
No,
one tanks. It's
no,
just not a thing that you do. But you can also lean into playing not less talented, but less reliable players that need to learn on the NFL
yes,
dime, right? And I think look, the position I would look at is, man, they played Wanye Thomas a lot on
yep.
Sunday. Let's see him play some more. And
Well,
you know what? Like,
and that's what I was gonna say. Like they're going to lean into the youth on this team, and that's honestly what they need to do, anyways. But when you're in a playoff battle or playoff race, sometimes you don't try to develop young guys like Maris Leafau.
yeah.
I just think we're gonna get to a point where it's not even a question about who should be
Yeah.
out on the field anymore.
Let's stop that immediately. Leofau needs to be playing a lot, and they need to Murray needs to be off the field. I'm not doing this week to week with Murray, man. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Same
Like,
with Sanborn. I thought Sanborn was atrocious.
yeah, Sanborn's just been bad. Like, you know what I'm saying? But Murray, it's like, Murray is, I think, actually a blocker because they got to play one of those two guys. And let's play Leofau out there, and then Overshown will be back. Let's give Overshown an extra 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but let's get him on the field. Let's see what those two guys look like. Man, Diggs, you don't seem healthy, buddy. You seem hurt. Why don't you sit on the bench for a little while and let's let Bridges play? I know
that one's tricky because I think I'd have to double check, but I think there's some guarantee. Well,
I don't. Do you think I don't think there is any guaranteed money left on his contract, and I think that
I think it's injury guaranteed.
Well, I'm not trying to cut him, but I'm trying to say that he's not injured like that.
No, but I'm saying like if he's saying, hey, I need to get surgery on my shoulder that I banged up in week 3, you got to guarantee me X amount of money. Or now my salary is guaranteed for 2026. It doesn't matter. Like that's besides the point. You're right though.
We already made $500,000 by for him not showing up at the. So look, my point being, there are some guys on this team, especially specifically the defense, and frankly, I just listened to. We'll go ahead and put Wilson in there as well. We'll list 3 of the 4 candidates in the defensive backfield were veteran guys that that are not young and don't need to develop. That could sit down a little bit, and Elam could just sit down.
I wouldn't be surprised if you start to pull some of those snaps from the older players like Donovan Wilson, Kenneth Murray, and then maybe it's really rough for a game or two, but in a month you actually improve. But I just don't think when you're in a playoff race that you want to give up those couple games midseason. I just don't think the Cowboys are going to care.
No, they should lean into being they are a young team still, and they should lean into it. And some of the older pieces that are frankly not playing well, like, what are we doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's the point? Like, you're not really in the race, or a couple more of these losses that you're probably going to have if you play like you think you're going to play against the Packers and some of these coming teams. You're out of the race. Let's go ahead and serve youth at this point.
And that's what's going to be exciting. Like, I'm not excited to have them lose, obviously, but I think it's going to be exciting to watch the development of some of these young guys.
Yeah.
And I think a guy like maybe we see Nate Thomas at right tackle instead of Terrence Steele, and they try to work a succession plan that way. I think we're going to see a lot of personnel changes over the next month. And that's at least it's different. It's a change. It's something to get excited about. All right, let's talk about the defense and why it's gotten so bad. I mean, yes, the Michael Parsons trade made a difference. But why is it this bad? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, whether that's player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action's unfolding. Like for me, on a Tuesday morning, I want to get up and see who is the favorite now to win the MVP. Who's going to win some of these bad divisions like the AFC North, where the Ravens just lost to the Lions. Like that's what I want to check out. And FanDuel makes it so easy to use. It's quick, and it's the best way to add just a little bit more energy and juice to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL podcast. 2 shows every single day. 1 in the morning with Tyler Rowland, 1 in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Landon, let's talk about the defense.
No.
Okay, there we go. That's the end of today's show.
Thanks, guys.
How has it gotten this bad this quickly? Because 2023, this was a defense that was flying around. They were making a bunch of plays. Then they got exposed in that Packer game. And it seems like since that Packer wildcard loss, it's been nothing but awful.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I think it's hard to tie this unit to that unit. This unit is like so different at this point, and I think that's the part of the problem, right? Is that you've got guys who are new in the linebacker spot, and because each defensive coordinator successively has kind of brought in their guys, right? And in this case, Kenneth Murray and Eberflus have no familiarity, right? Sanborn does, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, I just feel like, that's kind of just an example. But my point is that you have a situation where Eberflus plays a lot of zone, right? And you've got a group of guys that have to act as one unit in a zone to kind of, make sure that there's no holes, to kind of pass players off as they pass through zones, right? To communicate and to make sure that everyone is getting covered. And it just feels like when you watch the tape, there are guys like running open in zones and no one's reacting to it. Like, and it feels like guys like Murray are just not comfortable in the defense. They aren't instinctual in zone coverage. The guys like Diggs, like for instance, on that 35-yard touchdown that Diggs played, Diggs was playing like cover 3 coverage, right? He had his butt to the sideline and he was like side saddling, but every other corner in that snap was playing man. And it was like one of the 3 like cover 1 snaps that the Cowboys had, according to PFF. And Trayvon Diggs was playing zone, and he slipped on top of that. Like he slipped and fell down. So it's like, it just feels like it's a combination of just a lack of talent, guys who aren't even like well versed in the defense, and then you're playing teams like that are coached by guys like Ben Johnson who have these boutique coverage beaters for cover 2 and cover 3. They've got a volume of cover 2 and cover 3 beaters, and all you're playing is cover 2 and cover 3 with some cover 4 snaps mixed in, which he's got tons of those beaters too.
So a couple of things. They've done a bad job of letting guys walk in free agency that were, I think, actually pretty decent values and then replacing them. Like a perfect example. Dorrance Armstrong left for a pretty cheap amount of money. And Dorrance has actually played really well in Washington. The Cowboys used a 2nd-round pick in 2024 because they lost Armstrong that year, on Martian Nealand. And that's just been a big drop off. And it's just been like little drop offs, not a little, but like sizable drop offs at a couple different positions here, here, and here that have ultimately made it where this is just a bad unit. Now, I will say they've had a lot of bad luck, whether it's Trayvon Diggs having 2 knee injuries since you paid him. Deron Bland broke his foot, in training camp in 2024. Here you pay him, and then he gets hurt in practice. What was it after week 1? DeMarvion Overshown looks like a star. He tears his ACL. He's now had multiple injuries since you've drafted him. Sam Williams, the 2nd round pick, tore his ACL. A lot of bad luck, but also bad drafting. Like, you have a 1st round pick defensive tackle who was a healthy scratch for the first 2 weeks. Sam Williams has been a net negative because he can't stop the run and he's not giving you enough as a pass rusher. It's just all of these little things add up to being a really bad defense. And then when you trade away a Micah Parsons, it all gets exposed.
Yeah. And I think, again, like it's the kind of the trading away of Micah Parsons it's a microcosm of the larger problem, right? Like, I mean, you needed talented pass rushers to make the scheme that you're in the process of installing work. And then you trade away the most talented, like, pass rusher, the most talented defensive player that you've got. It's like you're hoping to backfill things, and you've fixed the run defense in some ways, but everyone knows that the pass defense is more valuable. So it just, all we're hoping for is that they get more opportunities with these draft picks. They hit on these draft picks. They can improve the defense in a way that you have at least some talent to work with. Maybe you can get another defensive coordinator in here with that's not as talent reliant, and then you can help yourself out.
And you're hoping that a couple guys pop this year, whether it's Donovan Ezeraku or maybe Savon Ravel comes and plays, really well, or Zion Childress proves he can be the slot corner. Like, that's what you're hoping. And then we'll fill through the draft and free agency in the next couple of years. But that's how we got here. All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Check out the channel on YouTube, download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.